Set Willie, more like Jet Suck. Oh hi, I'm Chris, welcome to Scanlines. Today's our first episode, so join me while we uncover some of the most haunting titles on the 8-bit systems. This is the horror of the ZX Spectrum. Okay, so these graphics don't quite inspire the blood-curdling fear present in the likes of the Resident Evil 2 remake.
Jesus Christ!
But just look at the cover art for these kinds of games. These incredibly creative covers really help to give you a flavour of what the game is about, and set up your imagination to enhance the experience past the primitive pixel art. Game cover art seems to be a lost art in the days of inlays, featuring a moody looking jerk holding a gun while staring off into the distance as if he's trying to remember if he's locked the back door this morning. First up we have the 1985 classic Cauldron from Palace Software, the software arm of the home video distributor Palace Video, most famously known for distributing the original Evil Dead in the United Kingdom in the early 1980s, but we'll get back to that. Initially, the game was conceived to be an adaptation of John Carpenter's 1978 classic film Halloween. Unable to develop a marketable concept, the game went in a different direction. Inspired by the Halloween holiday instead of the film, the developers opted for a traditional Halloween setting featuring witches and pumpkins. The game was designed by Steve Brown. Influenced by what he deemed a classical witch, Brown designed the witch with a long nose and a broomstick. He created a plasticine model of the character as a reference for a painting that was used for the game's excellent box art. The cover perfectly sets up the potion brewing adventure ahead. We've got a sinister looking hag stirring a bubbling cauldron filled with lots of nasty ingredients. The game's instruction manual starts with a rhyme that creatively explains the player's goals. Hearken witches everywhere, take the challenge if you dare. Tomorrow night 'tis Halloween, when only one shall be witch queen. 6 ingredients thou must take, and in the cauldron boil and bake. Juice of toad, eye of newt, wing of bat and hemlock root. Mouldy piece of splintered bone, found from deep in musty tomb. Molten lava, cooled a while, taken from the smoking isle. Then the spell shall be at hand, to rid the pumpkin from the land. So, as you can gather, the goal of the game is to gather the ingredients the witch needs to rid the land of an evil pumpkin overlord. Grab the fabled golden broom and become the witch queen. However, these aren't the type of ingredients you can just nip down to Tesco and grab off the shelf. These are going to require some dungeon crawling. The game starts with our player character, the aforementioned old warty hag, firing up her cauldron and leaving her woodland cottage. You start grounded, but pressing up sees the witch take off on her trusty broomstick, entering a side-scrolling shoot-'em-up mode, where it turns out your broomstick is actually a flying boomstick, firing magical balls of death at the never-ending onslaught of bloodthirsty vampire bats, hyperactive pumpkins, jolly bedsheet ghosts, and some very ill-tempered seagulls. You travel from either left or right in a screen-changing looping world. Your energy is represented by the magic meter at the top left corner of the screen, and your lives by the number of hags in the top right. However, gunning them down drains your magic meter, as does taking any damage. Once airborne, any collisions with obstacles or scenery will result in losing a life. The only way to land safely is to land on these ridged clearing patches on the ground. Landing is necessary as the witch needs to collect colour-coded keys that open the corresponding cave or crypt that hold the ingredients that you need. Frustration quickly sets in as you slowly and defenselessly shuffle towards your objectives, being hammered from above by all the denizens of hell, sapping your magic and unable to take off without insta-crashing to your warty demise. Damn it, just point the broom up and shoot back, you warty tart. If you wanted to die, you could have just stayed home and threw yourself in the cauldron. Once inside one of the 6 dungeons, the game shifts into platform mode, where you must jump from platform to platform to obtain the ingredient within. Jumps have to be very precise. If you don't land square in the middle of each platform, you fall to your doom. As in the overworld, bumping into an enemy drains your health, but also kills it. Sometimes this is necessary, as shooting also drains your magic. It can be easier to just bump into the enemy and take its life. Once all the ingredients are collected, you can nip back to your hovel, pop them in the cauldron, creating the spell, enabling entrance to the pumpkin's lair, where you chase the annoying bouncing orange bastard down and pop him on the head, ending his jovial springy existence. Grab the golden broom and earn a windscreen. In the end, Cauldron is a simple but fiendishly difficult game with some rather frustrating mechanics. You take damage constantly and have to be on the move at all times. Despite some sprite flicker, the graphics are pleasant for the time, with a great Halloween fairy tale vibe, Upon its original release, Cauldron garnered quite favourable reviews and was awarded a score of 91% and a Crash Smash Award by legendary ZX Spectrum magazine Crash. Cauldron is perhaps more famous because of a much rumoured blunder in the manufacturing process. Palace had gained the rights to publish a home computer game based on The Evil Dead, and that during the production of the tapes for Cauldron, The Evil Dead was accidentally recorded on the B-side of the cassette. Rather than scrapping all the already recorded tapes of Cauldron, Palace opted to advertise The Evil Dead as an included free game rather than remanufacture the Cauldron tapes and publish The Evil Dead separately. Another theory was that due to The Evil Dead being branded as a video nasty on its VHS release during the infamous Mary Whitehouse anti-horror VHS campaign, during which Palace Video was raided by police and taken to court, a legal tussle that even saw the film's director Sam Raimi put in an appearance to testify in defence of his film. The Evil Dead was found not guilty under the Obscene Publications Act on November 7, 1983, and removed from the video nasty list in November of 1985, resulting in the game being quietly released as a B-side to reach a wider audience and attract less parental and media backlash. The Evil Dead did, however, see a full release on the Commodore 64 and the BBC Micro, so this theory doesn't hold much water. As we all know, controversy sells, and the inclusion of the game proved to be a major part of Cauldron's success, adding extra value to the package. In 1986, Palace followed up their bestseller with a sequel, the aptly titled Cauldron 2: The Pumpkin Strikes Back. And maybe we'll visit that title in a future episode. So, how about that Evil Dead game then, I hear you ask? Well, let's check it out. Unfortunately, this time we don't have any cover art or instructions to consult, as this is a bonus game, but we do get a bitchin' loading screen that is a faithful recreation of the UK cinema poster originally drawn by the great Graham Humphreys. The Evil Dead was the first officially licensed game based on the series. The game is set in the good old cabin in the woods from the films. You play as Ashley J. Williams, and the objective of the game is to run around the cabin like a panicked lunatic, closing the cabin windows to prevent the deadites from entering, while also killing ones that appear in the cabin in the form of your possessed friends and their dismembered arms and legs. You can collect various instruments of dismemberment to aid your endless deadite slaughter, such as shovels, axes, and a trusty boomstick. Ash's energy level constantly decreases. Yep, another specky title that sees you constantly taking damage. Ash must continually pick up new weapons and kill the Evil Dead to replenish his health. Your health is represented by the energy meter in the bottom right of the screen. A cloud of mist, representing the evil force from the films, invades through the windows and possesses your friends if it touches them. Bumping into the mist will instantly kill you. Your comrades seem to have no sense of self-preservation at all, and further hinder your attempts to save them by blocking doors and weapons. If your friends are this frustrating to save, it's probably worth reconsidering just how much you actually like them. The sprites are also identical to the player, which causes confusion. Like here, where after a quick screen change, I wasn't sure which one I actually am. Once Ash hits a score of 100,000 points, the Book of the Dead appears, which must be promptly chucked into the fireplace to defeat the evil. Lobbing the flesh-bound tome into the fire doesn't seem to actually defeat anything, simply granting a 10,000 point bonus, and the nightmare of bleeps, flashing screens and slow controls continues for all eternity. The game is quite simple, and the frantic nature of constantly warding off the evil deadites is quite fun at first, with a fair amount of strategy needed in closing the right windows and grabbing the right weapons at the right time. Fun wears thin after a while as the game repeats itself ad nauseum. The graphics too are fairly basic, with some questionable design choices in the monsters, all accompanied by a series of beeps and screeches. There are, however, a few nice touches, such as the swinging chair, eerily swaying away on the cabin's front porch. Enhance it with your mind. Because it looks like shit. Yeah, it's quite primitive, but Evil Dead fans will appreciate it. Initial release reviews are scarce for the Spectrum version, however the game did tend to score quite well in its Commodore 64 incarnation, awarded 8 out of 10 by CVG in September 1984. Fans of the franchise should definitely check this one out and experience the first game in the series and how survival horror was interpreted in the early days of home computers. Now we move on to Mastertronic's 1987 budget release, The Curse of Sherwood. First glance at the artwork will suggest that you play as some scaredy pants Merlin type, who fires lame Danny Bicky style Hadoukens, whilst a pair of evil skeletons prepare to horribly disembowel him where he stands. It's a fairly attractive cover, filled with promises of a spooky good time. A quick look at the instructions paints a different picture, however. It turns out you play as Friar Tuck, which will probably make more sense than Merlin wandering lost around Sherwood, wondering how the hell he wound up north. The good friar has got his work cut out for him, because it turns out his lycra-tight-clad pal, Robin Hood, and his merry men are besieged by creatures of the night, possibly fending them off with their giant codpieces and moustaches. The creatures have been summoned by the evil cult of Sagalia, who one can only assume worship a giant flock of evil seagulls. To defeat the evil cult and banish the monsters, you have set up a meeting with the Bishop of Derby to perform an exorcism. The thought of two clergymen meeting in the woods in the dead of night to concoct any sort of plan sounds like a far more terrifying premise than the Curse of Sherwood has to offer. You find the bishop murdered, clutching a parchment in his cold dead hands. Thankfully, rather than being an illustration of questionable pornography, it contains a rhyme. Yes! Another rhyme encrypted with fetch quest clues. For fire protection you must amass werewolves' fangs and a scrying glass. Then travel through the misty wood to take them to the Witch of Good. From the man of solitary means, a parchment guide is what you need. Without it you may go astray, and in the forest lose your way. To buy the means to safety walk, a fiery monster you must stalk. He holds the price with precious metal, conveyed to the hermit without much fettle. A silver cross must be found before you feel safe and sound. On the pentagon it must be dropped, and the portal of evil will be stopped. Armed with yet another supernatural shopping list, you set off. There's the good friar now, in all his portly glory. You can move in all directions, and you'll follow the screen-changing pathways through the forest. Careful now, as the forest is teeming with ghastly enemies that want to drain Tuck of all his life-giving juices. You'll encounter club-waving ogres, murderous skeletons, killer bees, disgruntled archers, and flesh-hungry werewolves. There's no health meter, and one hit from being struck by any of the rapidly fired enemy projectiles or clumsily bumping into their sprites will result in the loss of one of your 3 lives. Luckily, the friar has set aside his pacifist religious ways and is armed to the teeth with swords, which he uses by hurling them at his enemies, skewering them in his bloodthirsty forest cleansing rampage. Tuck can also collect weapons and items from his slain enemies. Certain types of weapons work better on different enemies, and items can be used to progress to further areas in the game. Thankfully, the enemies do not respawn once killed. However, the game is quite frantic as you dodge enemy projectiles whilst hurtling your own, the firing of which can be very inconsistent, allowing for fast bursts of firing, then pausing before being able to attack again. Hits must also be precise, as in many cases only a headshot will do. Just the thought of a mad friar frantically sprinting around Sherwood Forest, hurling William Wallace-sized broadswords at his enemies while screaming BOOM! Headshot! Fills me with hopes of a future feature film adaptation. On your quest, you will encounter several abodes that can be entered. Some contain helpful characters, such as a wizened old man who will sell you a map, a witch who rides a super wicked broomstick around her living room, who will allow you to trade items for a potion, or enemies such as some kind of giant man baby who throws knives at you. There are also several obstacles in the forest which must be overcome to progress, such as an uncrossable lake, made passable only by firing an ice wand into it, or a complex swamp where you will need the map to guide you to the exit. The inventory can be a source of frustration, allowing you to only carry 3 items at a time, so you will often find yourself stepping over an item and dropping a previously held item, trying to ensure you have all the items you need at that given time. Also resulting in annoying backtracking to grab an item or weapon you previously didn't need. You can also find yourself immediately under assault from enemy projectiles as soon as you enter a screen. With no time to dodge or fire back, you will find yourself using the cowardly tactic of retreating to the previous screen before re-entering to reset the enemy's position and hopefully give you a fighting chance. Once you have all the items you need to make your way to the castle at the end of the forest and drop the silver cross into the pentagon to vanquish the evil and earn yourself a windscreen. The Curse of Sherwood released to mixed reviews, garnering a meagre 56% review score from Crash magazine. The biggest issue I encountered with The Curse of Sherwood was a game-breaking bug. I was unable to recall the map once I had activated it in the swamp. And also a few errors with glitching enemies. But having said that, and taking into account the budget price of £1.99 a release, the decent graphics and art style, and the time it takes to solve the riddle and complete the game, make for a decent afternoon of adventure. If the title had some more replayability and a bit more polish, this one might have scored higher. Well, we saved the best for last. Next up we have the 1987 home computer adaptation of the hit 1986 sequel film Aliens, developed by Electric Dreams. The cover art for this one is nothing to write home about, however it is faithful to the film's original cinema posters. A quick look at the instruction manual provides us with a nice bit of exposition and our objectives. The game follows the same plot as the movie, seeing the lone survivor of a previous alien encounter, Warrant Officer Ellen Ripley and a band of USCM Marines touch down on planet LV-426 to investigate the radio silence of the colony station there and the possibility of an alien menace. As is quickly discovered, the place has turned into a shithole, and all its inhabitants MIA, and possibly forced into the Xenomorph's highly controversial forced impregnation program, leaving only one survivor, the air vent-dwelling girl, Newt. Now it's up to you to command Ripley and the Marines to rescue Newt and find the alien queen and shoot her to pieces, all from the comfort of your hiding spot, safely secured in the armoured personnel carrier, you cowardly bastard. Aliens is quite the innovative beast for the capabilities of the ZX, featuring a first-person perspective, a reactive environment where the aliens work to ambush you at all times, selectable characters, a great HUD system, and 255 rooms to disorientate you. Just a quick look at the map that is included with the game is mind-boggling. As soon as you start, you're planted in control of Lieutenant Ripley. A quick assessment of the HUD reveals your current playable character depicted in the portrait screen in the middle. Your health is represented by the cardiograph to the portrait's left, and ammo is represented by the multicolour bar to the right. Also visible are the names of each of the other playable characters around the HUD. The dim-witted Gorman,
Alright, I guess. One hell of a hangover.
action hero Hicks,
I'd like to keep this handy for close encounters.
I heard that.
the synthetic person Bishop,
I prefer the term artificial person myself.
the definitely not an illegal alien Vasquez,
Fuck you, man.
and slimy corporate weasel Burke,
You dog me, pal.
with their current health represented by a colour bar and a number depicting which of the rooms they currently reside. As your team gets picked off, their information will disappear, and the picture in their portrait is replaced with that of an alien. You can select any character at any time, providing they are alive and well, by pressing the key corresponding with their name, i.e. H for Hicks. You can move around the complex by panning your helmet-mounted camera and smart gun crosshair around the room. Firing an unlocked door will take you through it. Doors can also be sealed shut by shooting the control panel to the side of the door. If a door has been sealed shut, it must be cut open, and multiple aliens can break through it. If the door is broken open, it can no longer be sealed. Once you start moving through the complex, those pesky xenomorphs start to come out of the proverbial woodwork. If your character should wander into a room with an alien present, and an alarm will sound, then you need to either run away quickly or take it out before it shuffles in front of your camera and punches an extra air hole in your forehead with its spare gob. You may also occasionally encounter Newt, who just sort of stares at you. Meeting her nets you a cool score bonus, although I played through the game a few times and didn't spot Newt once. During my playthroughs, I didn't see any facehuggers either. I'm not sure if this is just simply because they're not in the Spectrum version, or if they show up at a later spawn wave. Other nasty inhabitants include pools of acid blood, and big beefy alien queens who take a pretty dim homicidal view of you dispatching her brood. Another nuisance is the sticky biomechanical goo the aliens smear all over the walls. Left untended, this stuff spreads through the air vents, increasing the alien menace across rooms. The only way to cleanse it is, yep, you guessed it, blast the shit out of it. Of the many rooms, there are 2 power generator rooms. If the goo covers the walls in these rooms, the power fails and the lights go out, making your mission much more dangerous. So it's best to leave a character in each of these rooms to help keep them clean. If one of your unselected teammates meets up with an alien, their screen will flash yellow, giving you limited time to get to them and save them. If you fail, they then may be captured and prepared to be impregnated. One should also be wary of just resorting to wiping out the alien horde, as after a certain amount of kills the blast doors shut on your HUD, telling you how many varmints you have wasted and how many waves are being defeated. When the bay doors open again, a new wave starts. The higher the wave, the more aliens will assault you. It's best to run away and only kill aliens when absolutely necessary. Save the slaughter for the Queen's room. Once you reach room 248, it's all guns blazing.
Let's rock!
Melt everything that moves and you'll be ordered to return to the starting room. Once there, you will get the all-important windscreen issued by the company. Aliens released to generally favourable reviews, scoring a nice 84% in Crash magazine. The game captures the spirit of the film in a way that was probably thought not possible on the early home computers, and was quite possibly one of the earliest examples of a first-person shooter, and a strategic survival horror first-person shooter at that. The game could be quite intense, and was certainly quite scary at the time, with well-detailed graphics and design, the HUD being particularly impressive and the aliens well animated. Sound is limited to the title screen music and the blips and beeps of movement and firing. The overall package has great atmosphere and is well worth a look for fans of both the franchise and anyone interested in how these sort of games evolved. Well, I hope you enjoyed those 8-bit chillers, but that's all we've got time for on this episode. Be sure to like and subscribe and join me again for more Scanlines. Good day.